I never imagined that the moment of returning from the dead would unfold like this. Amid a noisy courtroom where the people I loved most were tearing each other apart over the fortune I had sweated blood to build. I am Adrian Brooks, 38 years old, the founder and CEO of Brooks Innovations, a technology conglomerate that I started from my home garage more than a decade ago. 2 months ago, the world declared me dead. Missing during a diving trip, body not found, and everything quickly shifted to legal proceedings. But now, here I stand, heart pounding, clutching a thick stack of documents, ready to step into the courtroom in Minneapolis. On the way here, I tried to stay calm. The taxi carried me from the Florida airport through familiar streets that now felt strangely alien. I looked out the window, watching the golden autumn leaves falling gently, a chilly wind slipping through the cracks in the glass. For the past 2 months, I had lived like a ghost, hiding on a small island, trying to piece together the shattered fragments of my memory. I clearly remember the suffocating feeling at the bottom of the sea, the unusual hissing sound from the oxygen tank, then darkness swallowing everything. I had nearly died for real, but now I am alive and I know the truth, a truth that hurts my heart more than death itself. I stopped the car a few blocks from the courthouse, not wanting anyone to recognize me too soon. Wearing an old jacket and a baseball cap pulled low over half my face, I walked under the overcast afternoon sky. Each step felt heavy, as if carrying the burden of betrayal. I had searched the news, read every article about my tragic death. Brooks Innovations, my brainchild, was now being torn apart. My parents, my brother Jason, and my wife Sophia, all of them had jumped into the fray. They initiated this lawsuit, demanding to divide the assets as if I had never existed. Greed had turned them into strangers. As I pushed open the courthouse doors, the clamor from the courtroom echoed out. I could clearly hear the lawyers arguing, their voices shrill and full of sharp reasoning. I paused in the hallway, taking a deep breath. My heart was racing wildly, cold sweat breaking out despite the chill. This was it. There was no turning back. I stepped in. The door creaked lightly, but enough for a few heads to turn. The courtroom was packed. Reporters sat in the back rows, pens poised to scribble, cameras at the ready. My company's shareholders whispered among themselves, faces etched with worry. In the center, the judge sat solemnly behind a polished wooden bench, banging the gavel to maintain order. And there, the 3 disputing parties, my parents, my brother Jason, and my wife Sophia. They sat separately, each with their own lawyer, like sworn enemies. My parents' lawyer was standing, voice booming. "Your Honor, Mr. Lucas and Mrs. Nina Brooks are the biological parents of the deceased Adrian Brooks. They raised him from childhood, and under inheritance law, they deserve the majority of the estate, including shares in Brooks Innovations. We have documents proving that Adrian promised to support his parents for life." I stood at the door, listening as my heart twisted in pain. Lucas, my father, sat there, his face stern but his eyes gleaming with ambition. Nina, my mother, still looked elegant as ever, but I knew inside her were pragmatic calculations. They had once been my rock, but now. Then Jason's lawyer interjected, "Your Honor, my client, Jason Brooks, is the biological brother and marketing manager at Brooks Innovations. He has contributed directly to the company's growth. We have a power of attorney that Adrian signed before his disappearance, granting Jason temporary authority to run it. The division must prioritize the person keeping the company afloat." Jason sat upright, his confident expression fake. I looked at my brother and felt a stabbing pain in my chest. We had played together as kids, shared dreams, but now his eyes were full of envy, as if I had always stolen his share. And Sophia, my wife, from a powerful financial family. Her lawyer stood up, voice smooth. "Mrs. Sophia Brooks is Adrian's legal wife. They were married for 6 years, and under marital law, she is entitled to half the assets. We have the prenuptial agreement and evidence of their shared life." Sophia sat there, makeup impeccable, dressed elegantly, but her expression distant. We had once loved each other, or at least I thought so. Now she was fighting for the assets like a stranger. The arguments grew increasingly heated. Documents flew across the tables, lawyers accusing one another. The judge frowned, banging the gavel. "I request that all parties remain calm." I felt the blood rush to my head. This was the moment. I stepped forward, holding the stack of documents. Proof of my identity, medical reports from Windmere Island, and evidence of the conspiracy. Each step felt like 1,000 pounds. My heart pounded, nerves making me nauseous. How would they react? Shock, joy, or fear? As I approached the judge's bench, a few people recognized me. A reporter whispered, "Wait, is that?" Then the murmurs spread. Someone stood up abruptly, chair scraping loudly. The entire room began to buzz. Reporters snapped photos frantically, flashes blinding. I stopped, voice calm but trembling. "Your Honor, I am Adrian Brooks. I am alive." The courtroom fell dead silent. The noise cut off abruptly, as if someone had hit the mute button. Only the gasping breaths of a few people remained. The judge looked up, glasses sliding down his nose, mouth agape. The lawyers froze mid-sentence, documents clattering to the floor. I looked toward my family. My father, Lucas, face ashen, eyes wide in horror. He gripped the armrest tightly, as if about to collapse. My mother, Nina, covered her mouth, tears welling up, not from joy, but from fear. Jason, my brother, shot to his feet, face drained of color, stammering, "No, it can't be." And Sophia, my wife. She stared at me like seeing a ghost, hands trembling as she clutched her purse. Her eyes darted wildly, shifting from shock to panic. They knew. They knew I hadn't died in an accident. Their plot was exposed. I handed the stack of documents to the judge. "This is proof of my identity and some information about what really happened. I request that the court dismiss this case immediately." The judge flipped through them, voice shaking. Mr. Brooks, we need to verify this. The trial will be recessed momentarily." The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed toward me, shouting, "Where have you been? How did you survive?" Shareholders whispered excitedly, a few clapping. But I only looked at my family. They sat there, frozen like statues. My heart ached, mixed with anger. I had returned, but not to forgive, to demand justice. The trial descended into chaos. Police were called to restore order. I stood there, feeling like I was in the eye of a storm. My heart still raced, nerves unrelenting. My father tried to stand, voice weak. "Adrian, son." But I turned away, not wanting to hear. My return was not the end. It was the beginning of the truth coming to light. Standing in the middle of the courtroom, surrounded by reporters and the chaotic clamor, memories of 2 months ago flooded back like a raging wave. I could never forget that fateful vacation, the trip that my father, Lucas Brooks, had insisted on organizing. He said it was to rekindle family bonds, but now, looking back, I realized it was merely a facade for far darker schemes. I, Adrian Brooks, had only hoped to spend some precious time with my loved ones before everything fell apart. 2 months earlier, we departed from Minneapolis on a private flight headed to the Caribbean. The newly developed island my father chose lay in a remote corner, with powdery white sand beaches and crystal-clear turquoise waters where luxury tourism was just beginning to sprout high-end resorts. My father, Lucas, 62 years old, had once been an ordinary postal worker. Now he lived entirely on the monthly allowance I provided. He no longer worked, but still liked to assert his role as head of the family. He had called me a few weeks prior, his voice brimming with excitement over the phone. "Adrian, son, it's been too long since the family got together. I've booked everything. A lavish trip, just us. This is our chance to bond." I agreed, though hesitation gnawed at me. Work at Brooks Innovations was overwhelming. New tech projects, endless meetings, and pressure from shareholders. But I thought, why not? At 38, I had succeeded with my company, but what about family? I hoped the trip would bring us closer, mend the cracks I increasingly sensed. I imagined evenings by the campfire, sharing old stories, laughing like we did in childhood. Oh, how naive I had been. When the plane touched down at the small island airport, the air already carried the scent of salty sea and tropical flowers. We were driven to the resort in jeeps along winding red dirt roads. My father sat in the front, grinning broadly, pointing out the scenery. "Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? I picked this place because it's fresh, not yet spoiled by tourists." My mother, Nina Brooks, 58, sat beside him, smiling gently. She was always like that on the surface, warm, tactful, skilled at saying things that pleased others. She patted his shoulder. "You chose well, Lucas. The kids will love it." But I knew my mother. Beneath it all, she was pragmatic, always calculating. She tracked every expense, every relationship, as if life were a balance sheet. She had once advised me to marry for her family's influence, not love. My wife, Sophia Brooks, 31, sat next to me in the back. She came from a powerful finance family. Her father owned a major investment fund in New York. Sophia was always impeccable, from her high bun hairstyle to her light summer dress, exuding a distant aura I once found alluring. She held her phone, snapping a few photos of the ocean. "This trip will be perfect for social media. Everyone will see how perfect our family is." To Sophia, everything was about image, reinforcing status with friends and the press. We had married 6 years earlier when I was still struggling with the startup. Back then, love seemed real, but now I felt the distance. She rarely touched me, rarely asked about work unless it involved money. And my brother, Jason Brooks, 33, sat in the very back, his face friendly as always. He worked as marketing manager at my company, a position I created to help him settle. On the surface, Jason was always joking, clapping me on the back. "Big bro, this trip is great. Thanks to Dad for setting it up." But his eyes always hid envy like a lurking shadow. The resort appeared before us. It felt like paradise. Sleek wooden beachfront villas, an infinity pool overlooking the ocean, and attentive staff. We had 5 days there, and the initial atmosphere was cheerful, but forced. The first days passed with activities, beach walks, massages, and a barbecue. One morning I woke early to jog along the shore, soft sand underfoot, waves lapping gently. Jason jogged after me. We talked about the company. "Bro, I think we could expand marketing. I've got good ideas." I nodded. "Sounds good, Jason. We'll discuss it when we're back." But he looked at me strangely, as if probing. That afternoon I sat with Mom by the pool. She stroked my hair. "Son, I'm so proud of you. But don't forget your parents, okay?" Her words were warm, but they felt like a reminder about the allowance. Sophia was different. We strolled at sunset, hand in hand. "I'm glad for this trip," she said. "It helps me post with friends. They always ask about our family." I smiled. "I just want to spend time with you." But she gazed at the sea, distant. That night in our room we were intimate, but something was missing. I held her, whispering, "Love, I promise to make more time for you." Sophia smiled, but her eyes didn't light up. Then came the final day, the day everything changed. We decided to join a scuba dive at a reef far offshore. It was an adventure, and I, the diving enthusiast since college, was the most excited. I suited up, checked the oxygen tank, everything normal. The local guide briefed us. "This area is beautiful, but watch the sharp coral." I jumped in first, cool water enveloping me. Beneath the surface, a different world. Colorful fish darting vibrant coral. I swam deeper, heart racing with thrill. Everything was peaceful until... About 20 minutes in, I felt short of breath. The air in the tank seemed thin. I checked the valve. It hissed abnormally, like it was clogged. My heart pounded faster. "What's happening?" I thought, trying to surface. But dizziness hit, limbs going numb. The water felt heavier, dragging me down. I signaled, but the boat was far. Consciousness faded, darkness closing in. My last thought was of my family. Would they save me? I didn't know then that it wasn't an accident. It was a plot. But in that moment at the bottom of the sea, I only felt primal terror, suffocating suspense. Everything went black. As shortness of breath set in and my heart pounded wildly, I thought of Brooks' innovations, of my dreams. But darkness swallowed everything. It all grew hazy like an endless nightmare. The icy seawater seeped into my skin, the roaring waves echoed in my ears, and then nothing. Just pitch black void, no pain, no sensation. I thought I had died, truly died. But then a faint glimmer pierced my eyelids, accompanied by the whistling wind and the pungent scent of salt. I opened my eyes, blinking to adjust. My mind spun as if someone had struck the back of my head. I found myself lying on a rough bamboo bed, every muscle in my body aching. Weak sunlight filtered through the cracks in the wooden door, and beside me sat a gaunt old man with disheveled white hair perched on a chair woven from palm leaves. The old man looked up when he saw me stir, his eyes squinting behind cracked glasses. "Oh, you're awake? Don't try sitting up too fast, you'll fall." His voice was hoarse but warm, like gentle waves lapping the shore. I tried to prop myself up, but a violent dizziness hit, forcing me back down. My head throbbed as if 1,000 needles were pricking it. I touched my forehead, feeling the coarse bandage wrapped around a wound. Where am I?" I whispered, my voice weak and raspy. My mouth tasted bitter, like I'd swallowed sand. The old man smiled faintly, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "I'm Jacob, living alone on this island, Windmere. A tiny speck nearly 50 miles from the mainland. 4 days ago I was out on the rocks gathering seaweed when I saw you wash ashore. Thought you were drowned, but when I dragged you up you still had a faint breath. You're lucky, young man. The sea often swallows people, but sometimes it spits out the stubborn ones." He spoke slowly, evenly, like telling a fairy tale. I listened, utterly bewildered. Windmere Island. I remembered nothing about this place. Fragmented memories flickered in my mind. A strange popping sound underwater, seawater flooding my lungs, the terrifying suffocation. But they vanished, leaving a vast emptiness. Who was I? Where did I come from? Why was I here, my body covered in scratches and bruises? I looked down at myself, my heart twisting. My right shoulder was swollen and purple from crashing into sharp coral. My chest ached with every breath, as if my lungs were still waterlogged. My arms and legs were riddled with shallow and deep cuts crusted with dried blood. I don't remember anything," I whispered, voice trembling. Jacob nodded sympathetically, handing me a cool coconut cup of water. "You took a bad hit to the head, that's probably why. Don't worry, time will bring it back. Rest now. There's no doctor here, just me and the sea." He stood, shuffling to prepare a meal, a few ripe bananas and fish grilled over a campfire. The savory aroma filled the air, but I could only manage a few bites. Exhaustion pulled me under, and I drifted off to the rhythmic crashing of waves outside. The following days were a long blur of confusion and slow recovery. I began to move lightly around Jacob's simple wooden hut. Windmere was tiny, just a few square miles with powdery white sand, lush coconut groves and sheer cliffs. No electricity, no roads, just the wind and the cries of seabirds. Jacob had lived here alone for decades after losing his wife and choosing to leave the noisy world behind. "I was a fisherman in Florida," he said one afternoon as we sat by the fire. "But life taught me that sometimes solitude is peace." I nodded, but my heart was restless. My memories remained foggy, shrouded in thick mist. I tried to recall, but each attempt brought stabbing pain, forcing me to clutch my head and groan. To pass the time and rebuild my strength, I helped Jacob with small tasks. At dawn, we gathered seaweed and caught rock crabs on the shore. My hands shook holding the old net, but strength gradually returned. "You're doing well," Jacob praised, clapping my shoulder. In the afternoons, we repaired the hut, patching the palm leaf roof riddled with holes after rain. Evenings by the fire, Jacob shared stories of his life, his fishing trips, the great storm that nearly swallowed him. I listened, searching his tales for a piece of myself. But my mind stayed blank. No name, no family, nothing beyond vague images of seawater and an explosion. Who am I? I asked myself each night, lying on the bamboo bed, staring at the dark roof. Fear crept in, suspense like an undercurrent. Would I ever remember? Or would I remain a nameless man on this isolated island? After nearly a month on Windermere, my health markedly improved. I could carry heavy loads, swim near the shore without tiring. Life grew familiar, waking to wild roosters crowing, breakfast of fresh fruit, working with Jacob, and late afternoons watching the sunset paint the sea red. Jacob became a friend, a second father. He taught me about nature, patience. The sea teaches us that everything has its time, he said once while mending a net. I nodded, but my heart yearned to remember, to return to somewhere I couldn't name. Then one stormy afternoon, everything changed. Rain pounded the palm roof, wind howled through the cracks. We sat inside, Jacob turning on his old battery-powered radio, the rare item he'd brought from the mainland. Static crackled, then a warm male announcer's voice. Today's news from the U.S. successful entrepreneur Adrian Brooks, founder of Brooks Innovations, has been officially declared dead after over a month missing during a diving trip in the Caribbean. His family confirmed no body was found, but under the law, he is presumed dead by accident. A memorial service will be held tomorrow in Minneapolis, attended by shareholders and friends. I was holding a coconut about to drink when my hand suddenly shook violently. The coconut fell to the wooden floor, water splashing everywhere. My heart raced as if about to burst from my chest. Adrian Brooks, the name echoed in my mind, painfully familiar. That was me. I was Adrian Brooks. In that instant, like a door blasted open, memories flooded back like a tidal wave. I remembered everything. The family vacation, my father Lucas organizing it, my mother Nina with her tactful smile, my brother Jason's envious eyes, my wife Sophia's distance, the forced meals, the superficial conversations, the final day, the dive. I jumped in first, everything normal, then the abnormal hiss from the oxygen valve. Shortness of breath, limbs going numb. I clutched my head, collapsing to the floor, gasping. Jacob rushed over, worried. What's wrong? You're pale as a ghost. But I heard nothing. Memories kept pouring in. Brooks Innovations, the company I built from nothing. Sleepless nights, coding, resounding successes. Then the fateful trip, my father insisting it was to rekindle bonds. But now I saw the strange signs. Jason meticulously checking my oxygen tank. Sophia's fake concern. My mother whispering to my father about the future. It wasn't an accident. It was a plot. My heart ached, anger mixed with fear. Had they tried to kill me for the fortune? I told Jacob everything, voice shaking. He listened, nodding. Life is strange. You have to go back, set things right. That night, I didn't sleep. Memories had returned, but with deep pain. I recalled a happy childhood with my parents, playing with Jason, my wedding day with Sophia. But now it was all tainted with betrayal. Suspense surged. How would I face them? I had to return, but my heart was full of unease. Windermere was no longer a refuge. It was where I was reborn to confront the brutal truth. The next morning, as the sun rose from the sea horizon, I was resolute. I have to go, Jacob, I said, my voice firm despite my racing heart. The old man nodded, making no attempt to stop me. You're ready. But remember, the sea teaches patience. Don't rush, or you'll lose your way. We spent the day preparing. Jacob gave me the small boat he used for offshore fishing. An old wooden vessel, but sturdy. He packed food. Fresh coconuts, dried fish, and fresh water in plastic jugs. Head southeast. You'll reach the mainland in 2 days if the wind's favorable. I hugged him tightly, gratitude overflowing. You saved me twice, once from the sea, once from oblivion. Jacob smiled sadly. Go, Adrian. And if you need it, this island will always wait. The sea journey was another ordeal. I rowed under the blazing sun, skin tanning, hands blistering from the rough oars. The ocean stretched endlessly. Waves lapped gently at first, then the wind picked up, rocking the boat. My heart pounded each time I scanned the horizon. Would I reach Florida? Drifting through the nights, I lay curled under a starry sky, thoughts swirling. Memories of the dive haunted me. The hissing oxygen valve, the spreading numbness. Who did it? Jason with his envious eyes? Sophia always distant? Or my parents, once my anchors? Pain mixed with anger kept me awake. I just lay there, listening to the waves whisper like fate. You have to live, I told myself, to claim justice. After 3 days adrift, longer than planned due to headwinds, I spotted land. Florida's port emerged hazy through morning mist, with large ships anchored and horns blaring. My heart thundered as the boat docked. I slipped away quietly, avoiding attention. In Jacob's old clothes, bearded and unkempt, I looked like a wandering fisherman. I sold the boat to a dock owner for a pittance, just enough for a bus ticket and some food. I rented a small room in a Miami suburb, a cheap motel with peeling walls and a musty smell. Name? The landlady asked, eyeing me suspiciously. John Doe, I lied, paying cash. The cramped room had a hard bed, an old wooden table, and a rickety TV. But it was enough to start. I needed information. Without a laptop, I went to a nearby public internet cafe filled with homeless people and tourists. Sitting at a dusty screen, hands trembling, I typed, Adrian Brooks dead. News flooded in like a torrent. Headlines screamed, Tech entrepreneur Adrian Brooks officially declared dead after diving accident. My smiling photo on front pages next to Brooks Innovations, the company I'd sweat blood to build from my home garage. My heart clenched reading on. The company is temporarily run by brother Jason Brooks, pending inheritance proceedings. Jason? My brother, always in my shadow, now in the CEO chair? I froze, gripping the mouse tightly. How? I dug deeper, scrolling financial articles. Jason Brooks presents power of attorney from his brother, court approved. He vows to maintain company growth. Power of attorney? I never signed anything like that. It had to be forged. Rage boiled, suspense surging as I pictured him in my office, signing checks, meeting shareholders. I searched my family next. My parents, Lucas and Nina, appeared in interviews. We're devastated, my father said on TV, voice falsely trembling. But another article. Brooks family pushes to sell Brooks Innovations shares to major investor. They were rushing to sell my company? The one I built from zero? From sleepless coding nights? From risky loans? I imagined Nina with her tactful smile whispering to my father, sell it for our retirement. Pain cut like a knife. I sat for hours but didn't cry. Instead, cold resolve. I needed proof. About Sophia, my wife. I typed, Sophia Brooks after husband's death. The results stunned me more. Photos of her at a New York Society gala just weeks after my death. Radiant smile, sparkling gown, no trace of grief. Sophia reemerges at charity event alongside investment fund CEO Marcus Hale. Marcus Hale? The tall, silver-haired man who partnered with my company, always eyeing Sophia hungrily. Photos of them arm in arm, laughing. My heart twisted. How long had she betrayed me? Or was she just waiting for me to die to be free? I remembered our wedding day. Her whisper, you're my everything. Now it felt like a cruel joke. Suspense and jealousy made me pace, breathing hard. I had to watch them. I bought a cheap prepaid phone and planned. I went to Orlando, hiding in a parked car blocks from a hotel. My heart raced seeing them arrive, my parents, Jason and Sophia. They entered a private meeting room with frosted glass. I sneaked in through the back, posing as housekeeping, pushing a linen cart. My heart nearly burst, cold sweat breaking out. I stopped outside the door, listening through the crack. My father's voice first. We need to agree. The company sells to Hale for $95 million. The money splits evenly. Jason cut in. Evenly? No way. I've done the most. I deserve the largest share. You two just sit and collect. How's that fair? Sophia sneered. And me? I'm the wife. By law, I get half. Don't forget Marcus can get a higher price. They argued, voices rising. My father slammed the table. No greed. If we don't agree, the court steps in, Jason shouted his grievances. Then he mentioned my accident. He was the one who sabotaged my oxygen tank. My parents and wife were behind it, all part of the plan. His words hit like lightning. Staged accident? They admitted it. My heart pounded wildly, fists clenched on the cart handle. They plotted to kill me. Sabotaged valve, Jason's doing with everyone's complicity. For the fortune. I backed away, rage and pain overwhelming. It wasn't an accident. It was a meticulous plot by those closest to me. Jason envied my position. Sophia wanted freedom and money. My parents craved security. I'd poured my life into Brooks Innovations, from the first garage idea to million-dollar deals. Now they tore it apart like beasts. But I wouldn't let them. Suspense peaked. I had to prepare, gather evidence, and make them pay. The following days in Orlando were a long string of solitude and calculation. I lived like a ghost, avoiding every gaze, venturing out only when necessary. I kept monitoring news about my family. Just days after that secret meeting, everything exploded. Headlines blared, Brooks family civil war, parents, brother, and wife sue each other over million-dollar estate. They dragged one another to court, like wolves tearing at the same carcass. My parents, Lucas and Nina, hired a lawyer to claim the lion's share based on blood ties. Jason emphasized his role as the natural successor in the company. Sophia, with her finance background, argued spousal rights. Reading the reports tore at my heart. The trial was scheduled in Minneapolis, my hometown, where Brooks Innovations was headquartered. The wait for the trial was the longest stretch of my life. I wandered familiar streets, gazing at the Brooks Innovations tower from afar. Glass gleaming in the sun, the logo I designed still glowing. I remembered the early days, coding 18 hours straight in my parents' garage, eating instant noodles to save money. Then the first loan, the investor deal, the explosion. The company became a leading tech conglomerate specializing in AI software and security. All built with blood, sweat, and tears. Now they wanted to steal it. Pain and rage kept me awake. I lay there, planning every step. I would enter the courtroom at the height of the dispute, submit evidence, and declare the truth. The trial day arrived under a gray sky, drizzle falling lightly. I got there early, blending into the crowd of reporters and shareholders outside the courthouse. My heart pounded, cold sweat breaking out despite the chill. The trial drew massive media. Cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Brooks Innovations shareholders gathered, faces anxious about the company's future. I saw my parents arrive first. Dad Lucas walking slowly in an old suit. Mom Nina beside him, makeup perfect but eyes weary. They said nothing, just nodded to their lawyer. Then Jason, my brother, looking more confident, hair slicked back, clutching a thick briefcase. Finally, Sophia, my wife, in an elegant black dress accompanied by her lawyer and Marcus Hale, the strange man from the photos, now openly at her side. My heart twisted. She wasn't even pretending to grieve. I slipped into the courtroom through a side door, taking a back row seat, cap pulled low. The air inside was stifling, smelling of old paper and whispers. The judge, a stern, middle-aged man, sat behind a polished wooden bench, banging the gavel to open. The inheritance dispute over the estate of Mr. Adrian Brooks begins. Parties, present your arguments. The three sides, my parents sharing a lawyer, Jason alone, Sophia alone, sat apart like enemies. My parents' lawyer stood first. Your Honor, Mr. Lucas and Mrs. Nina Brooks are the biological parents of the deceased. They raised him, and under inheritance law, they deserve the majority, including Brooks Innovation shares. We have evidence of lifelong emotional and financial support. I listened, heart aching. Support? Dad was a postal worker, Mom a homemaker, but I was the one sending monthly allowances. Then Jason's lawyer cut in. Your Honor, my client Jason Brooks is the brother and senior manager at the company. He has a power of attorney from Adrian allowing temporary control. We request priority for Jason, who is keeping the company from collapse. Jason sat straight, smug, but I saw his knuckles white, perhaps nervous about the forged document. Finally, Sophia's lawyer asserted, Mrs. Sophia Brooks was the legal wife for 6 years. Under marital law, she is entitled to half the estate, including joint accounts and shares. Sophia stared out the window, distant, but I caught her glancing at Marcus in the gallery. Arguments turned fierce. The court demanded all records, share transfers, power of attorney, shareholder resolutions. Documents flew across tables, lawyers accusing each other. This power of attorney is suspicious. Sophia's lawyer shouted, Jason has no right to sell without the wife's consent. Jason fired back, she just wants cash for her lover. My brother's assets. Only blood deserves to inherit. My father slammed the table. Quiet. We're family, but the bulk must go to the parents. Tension choked the air. The judge banged the gavel repeatedly. Order! We need to examine the evidence. My heart raced, suspense peaking like it would burst. This was it. I stood clutching the stack of documents. Identity proof from Windmere Island, medical reports, and evidence of the forged power of attorney. Each step forward felt heavy, burdened by betrayal. Reporters whispered, heads turning. As I neared the judge's bench, the room froze. Arguments died instantly. The judge looked up, glasses sliding down his nose. Who are you? The trial is in session. Lawyers halted mid-sentence, mouths agape. I stared at my family. Dad Lucas went ashen, eyes wide in horror, gripping the armrest like he'd fall. Mom Nina covered her mouth, tears welling, from fear, not joy. Jason shot up, face bloodless, stammering. Sophia stared like seeing a ghost, hands trembling on her purse, eyes darting from shock to panic. Marcus Hale behind her looked bewildered. I stepped to the bench, voice calm but shaking. Your Honor, I am Adrian Brooks. I am alive, and I will not divide a single asset with any of those 4 people. The courtroom fell dead silent, then erupted in murmurs. Reporters snapped photos frantically, flashes blinding. Shareholders whispered, My God, the boss is alive. The judge banged the gavel wildly. Silence! Mr. Brooks, we need immediate verification. Trial recessed. I handed over the documents. Here is identity proof, papers from Windmere Island where I was rescued after the accident. And here is analysis of the forged power of attorney. The judge flipped through, calling security for emergency fingerprint and DNA checks. While waiting, I stood, eyes locked on my family. They were statues. Jason staggered back into his seat, head bowed. Sophia buried her face, shoulders shaking. My parents exchanged panicked glances, Mom whispering, How? My heart ached, but I stood firm. I recalled the island days, memories flooding back, and now it was time to face them. After half an hour, results. Identity confirmed. This is Mr. Adrian Brooks. The judge declared, all property and share rights restored to Mr. Adrian Brooks. Case dismissed. Parties may face investigation for forged documents. The room exploded. Shareholders clapped, reporters surged. Where were you? How did you survive? But I pushed through, giving my family one last look. Lucas, Jason, and Sophia were stunned, speechless, mouths open, eyes vacant. The public buzzed. A plot? They tried to kill him? I left the courtroom in silence, surrounded by security. My gaze was resolute. I had reclaimed everything, not through revenge, but through truth and justice. Outside, rain still fell, but my heart felt lighter than ever. The story wasn't over, but this chapter had closed. The days immediately after the trial were a whirlwind. Reporters swarmed me like a disturbed hive, flashes popping, microphones thrust in my face. "Mr. Brooks, how did you survive?" Was it a conspiracy? I only gave a faint smile and shook my head. "I'll speak when I'm ready." That same afternoon, I returned to Brooks Innovations, stepping into the gleaming glass tower under the Minneapolis autumn rain. Employees stared as if seeing a living ghost. Some rushed to hug me, eyes brimming with tears. "Boss, we thought we'd lost you." I patted their shoulders, voice steady. "The company is still ours. We'll rebuild." My old office was a mess. Papers Jason had left behind, traces of betrayal. I sank into the familiar leather chair, fingers brushing the keyboard, recalling sleepless nights coding when the company was just a garage dream at my parents' house. Back then, Jason was a kid toddling after me, asking, "What are you doing, bro? Can I help?" Now he'd tried to kill me for this seat. My heart twisted, suspense rising every time I thought of them. Should I forgive or sever ties forever? I spent several days restructuring the company. Fired Jason's loyalists, appointed new managers, audited finances. Luckily, they hadn't sold all the shares yet. Shareholders held an emergency meeting, applauding wildly as I outlined the future: AI expansion, sustainable investments. "Brooks Innovations will be stronger than ever," I declared, voice echoing in the boardroom. A few days post-trial, I decided to end it all. I couldn't live with that shadow hanging over me. I drove to my parents' old suburban house in Minneapolis, the place I grew up, where the garage had been my first lab. The 2-hour drive passed through familiar streets lined with golden autumn leaves, a chilly wind blowing. My heart pounded, hands gripping the wheel. I knew the route by heart, past the old park where Jason and I played soccer, past the bakery Mom frequented. Flashbacks flooded in. Happy childhood. Dad Lucas teaching me to fix a bike, laughing, "Son, you'll do great things." Mom Nina cooking dinner, fragrant, "Eat up so you can study hard." Jason trailing me, "Bro, play with me." Back then, family was everything. Then I succeeded, sent allowances, bought them a new house, but greed changed it all. Rain pattered on the windshield. I wondered, what will they say? Apologize or justify? Suspense peaked, like before entering court. I pulled over once, took a deep breath, then continued. This was the final goodbye. Pushing open the door, familiar smells hit me. Stale coffee, musty newspapers, a faint whiff of dinner. The house hadn't changed. Cramped living room, worn furniture, threadbare carpet. Dad Lucas looked up from the sagging sofa, gaunt, silver hair unkempt as if uncombed for weeks. He held a newspaper, hands trembling. His eyes flashed fear at seeing me, like a ghost from the past, then shame. He bowed his head. He tried to speak, lips moving. "Adrian, son, An excuse, a justification, but only broken syllables emerged before my steel-cold gaze silenced him. I stood wordless, staring at the man who'd once been my hero, now shrunk like a defeated foe. My heart ached, recalling when he lost his postal job, and I promised, "I'll take care of you both." Now he'd betrayed that by trying to kill his son. In the corner, Jason Brooks leaned against the wall, silent, face pale. His eyes flickered between fear and regret, like a cornered animal. In an old hoodie, he looked more haggard than ever. None of the fake confidence from court. I gazed at him, remembering sibling arguments. "Jason, why the jealousy?" He'd laughed. "I just want to be like you." Now he was the plotter. He avoided my eyes, then suddenly bolted for the door, shoulders shaking, fleeing without a backward glance. The slam echoed like a chapter closing. I heard his car start and roar away. My heart hurt. My own brother, blood now running like a coward. Mom Nina stood in the kitchen doorway, clutching a dish rag, trembling as she looked at her eldest son. Tears streamed down wrinkled cheeks, dripping from her chin. She couldn't speak, lips moving soundlessly. She looked a decade older, hair snow-white, eyes red. I recalled her hugging me, crying when my first startup failed. "Son, I believe in you." Now she was part of the plot, pushing to sell the company. She took one step toward me, arms half raised for a hug, but froze at my expression. Her tears splattered the old wooden floor. I looked at the three, Dad hunched, Mom shaking, Jason gone, and felt no anger, only profound sadness from lost trust. They'd been my world. Now they were strangers, stained by betrayal. My heart raced, not from fear but regret. I gave a slight nod, final farewell, then turned and left. No words. The door closed behind me, rain fell harder. I drove away, tears rolling down my cheeks, not from hate but loss. Family shattered, and I was the sole survivor. Weeks later, I cut off all support to my parents. I called the bank, canceling the regular transfers I'd sent for years, thousands monthly, enough for comfort. "Confirm cancellation," the banker said. I nodded, voice calm. "Yes." My heart was heavy, remembering each payment. Now they'd fend for themselves. I heard they sold belongings, moved to a smaller apartment, struggled. Dad Lucas had heart issues, hospitalized, but never called. Mom Nina sent a handwritten letter to the office. I didn't open it, just filed it away like a sad memento. As for Jason, I fired him the first week back. In the board meeting, I presented the forged power of attorney evidence. Jason Brooks has no place here. He didn't protest, just bowed his head and left. Then he vanished from Minneapolis, no trace. Rumors said he worked odd jobs elsewhere, Texas or California, sales clerk or janitor, avoiding his past. I pictured him alone in a cheap motel, nights tormented. What did I do to my brother? My heart still ached for him. The brother who once shared dreams. But the betrayal ran too deep. No return. Those weeks I focused on the company. Brooks' innovations surged back. New projects launched, stock soaring. I gave time to charity, building schools, funding young startups as balm for the pain. But late nights memories haunted. I drove to the old garage once, sat for hours recalling childhood. What is family? I wondered. They'd collapsed, self-destructed. I didn't prosecute, not yet, but my heart was closed. New life began, scars remained. Suspense for the future, but I knew. I was stronger than ever. However, one final thread remained to be severed, my marriage to Sophia. 6 years together, but in retrospect it felt more like a contract than love. I remembered the day we met, at a finance conference in New York when I was a struggling young entrepreneur with my startup. Sophia, from a powerful family with flowing blonde hair and a captivating smile, approached me first. "You have a great idea," she said, eyes sparkling. We dated, fell passionately in love, or so I thought. But deep down I always sensed a distance. She loved the image, the parties, the fame more than the nights I stayed up coding in our tiny apartment. When I proposed, her family, finance tycoons, forced me to sign a prenuptial agreement. "To protect both sides," her father said coldly. Back then I was broke, drowning in debt, so I agreed. Each keeps their own assets, no equal split in divorce. I signed without much thought because of love. Now that contract became my weapon. I decided to file for divorce just 2 weeks after returning. Not out of hatred, though images of her with Marcus Hale still haunted me, but because I needed complete freedom. I called my personal lawyer, an old college friend, and prepared the papers. "Are you sure, Adrian?" he asked, voice concerned. I nodded. Absolutely. This marriage died long ago. My heart raced thinking of Sophia's reaction. What would she say? Cry? Threaten? I recalled our arguments. "You're always working. I need a real husband," she'd yell, then turn away as her phone buzzed with messages from friends. Now I knew those friends were Marcus, the investment fund CEO who'd partnered with my company. Photos of them together after my death still cut like knives. I'd loved her blindly once, but now only pain and resolve remained. I arranged to meet Sophia at a neutral cafe in downtown Minneapolis, the spot of our first date. The afternoon sky was gray, autumn chill seeping through the windows. She arrived late, impeccably made up as always, in a fitted black dress, but her eyes betrayed fatigue. Marcus wasn't with her. Perhaps she knew this was serious. We sat across from each other, the air heavy. I slid the divorce papers across the table. "Sophia, I'm filing for divorce. Here's your copy." She stared, then looked up, face flushing. "You're joking? After everything? You think you can just walk away?" Her voice was shrill with anger. I stayed silent, waiting. She sneered, smug. "If you divorce me, you'll lose half your assets. I'm your wife. By law. I'll take everything. The house, the stocks, all of it. You'll regret this, Adrian." Her threats were empty. I knew the truth. My heart beat faster, suspense mixed with exhilaration. She'd forgotten the prenup we signed before the wedding. I smiled faintly, voice calm. "See you in court." She stood, nearly knocking over her coffee. "I'll bankrupt you." Then she stormed out, heels clicking sharply on the floor. I sat watching the window as rain began to fall. Suspense surged. This trial would be the fatal blow. The days waiting for the divorce hearing were strange. By day I was busy with the company, meetings, new contracts, stock up 20% in a week. Employees cheered, "Boss, we're soaring." But at night, memories of Sophia flooded back. I recalled our wedding, her radiant in white, dancing under candlelight, promising forever. "I love you," she whispered. Now it felt like mockery. I dug out an old memory box, wedding photos, honeymoon tickets, and burned them in the fireplace. Flames roared, consuming the past. I also prepared evidence, the original prenup safely stored in my safe. My lawyer grinned. "This is the ace. She'll be shocked." I nodded, but emotions swirled. I'd truly loved her once, dreamed of children, family. Now only ashes. The hearing day arrived with rare autumn sunshine. The family court in Minneapolis wasn't as crowded as the inheritance trial, but a few reporters lingered. The man back from the dead story still hot. I arrived early in a simple black suit, heart pounding. Sophia came late with her lawyer and... "Marcus?" The silver-haired man sat in the gallery, glaring hostilely. She took her seat opposite, face icy, eyes averted. The judge, a stern, middle-aged woman, banged the gavel. The divorce proceedings between Adrian Brooks and Sophia Brooks begin. Parties, present your arguments. Sophia's lawyer stood first, voice smooth. "Your Honor, my client requests equal asset division under marital law." Mrs. Sophia supported her husband for 6 years, enduring his demanding life. "We have evidence of joint accounts and company shares." Sophia nodded, smirking at me as if victory was hers. My heart raced faster, suspense peaking. They knew nothing of the prenup. My lawyer interjected, "Your Honor, we have a valid prenuptial agreement signed before the marriage." I calmly stood, presenting the yellowed document, the very one her family forced on me. I spoke slowly. At the time, I was a broke entrepreneur just starting out, struggling with debt and cheap burgers. Sophia's family made me sign to protect their assets. It clearly states, each keeps their own property, no equal split upon divorce. Brooks Innovations was mine from the start, before the marriage. The room fell silent. The judge reviewed, nodding. "Document is valid." Sophia went ashen, eyes wide in horror. "No, impossible." Dad said it was just a formality. She turned to her lawyer, voice shaking. "Check it. He's lying." But the lawyer shook his head, face pale. Marcus behind her looked confused, likely realizing the plan had failed. Our divorce hearing ended swiftly in half an hour. No asset split per the prenup. Sophia left the courtroom ghostly white, soul lost. She realized she'd get nothing. No fortune, no final grasp at Marcus or anyone else. She glanced at me one last time, eyes red. "Adrian, why?" But I said nothing, just signed the papers, relief flooding me. I had severed the final tie to the past, leaving behind a family that had destroyed itself through greed. I exited the court in silence, warm autumn sun shining down. Reporters swarmed, but I pushed through. No comment? Driving home slowly, thoughts swirled. Marriage over, but wounds lingered. I recalled happy moments, Hawaii trip, her laughing on the beach, my birthday, her clumsy home-cooked dinner. But betrayal overshadowed all, adultery, conspiracy. Why? I wondered, gripping the wheel. Greed blinds people. At home, I opened an old bottle of wine, sat by the window overlooking the city. New life truly began. No family, no ties. Suspense for the future. Would I love again or live alone? But I knew I was strong. Brooks' innovations awaited, charity awaited. The past shattered, but I was reborn. Time passed in the blink of an eye. In the first weeks after the divorce, I plunged headlong into work as a way to forget. Brooks' innovations, my brainchild, had nearly been torn apart by the greed of those closest to me. Now I was back in charge with ironclad determination. I invested in AI research and cybersecurity, late-night meetings, computer screens glowing in the office, the echo of keyboard clacks. I recalled the early startup days, coding relentlessly in my parents' garage with a cold cup of coffee, dreaming of a company that would change the world. Now that dream roared back stronger than ever. In just 6 months, stocks skyrocketed, contracts poured in from giants like Google and Microsoft. Brooks Innovations became a globally respected tech powerhouse, not just in Minneapolis, but worldwide. The press hailed the return of Adrian Brooks, tech legend reborn. But fame didn't matter to me. Each morning I woke in my penthouse, gazed at the bustling city below, and told myself, I survived. Now it's time to build. My life settled into a new orbit, calm, low profile. I avoided society parties, declined interviews, focused solely on work and philanthropy. I founded the Windmere Foundation, inspired by the island that saved my life. It supported underprivileged kids starting in tech, built schools in remote areas, and funded medical research. Charity trips brought me peace. Watching children beam at their first laptops, hugging cancer patients receiving treatment. Thank you, Mr. Brooks, a mother whispered, eyes brimming. I smiled. Call me Adrian. Gradually, the resentment in my heart faded. I no longer woke from nightmares of the sea or my family's ashen faces in court. Instead came serenity. I meditated every morning, jogged along the Mississippi River, feeling cool wind in my hair. Suspense about the future lingered. Would I be alone forever? But I learned to let go. Jacob's words on the island echoed, life is like the sea, waves come and go. Clinging only hurts you. I applied them, slowly forgiving myself for blind trust. Meanwhile, in the Minneapolis suburbs, my parents, Lucas and Nina Brooks, spiraled into hardship. Without my monthly support, they faced harsh reality. The old house I'd bought them, the one whose garage birthed Brooks Innovations, was listed for a pittance. A relative told me they moved to a tiny apartment in a working-class neighborhood, walls peeling, roof leaking in the rain. Neighbors gossiped. The Brooks family, once rich thanks to their son, now dirt poor. Heard they plotted to kill him for the money. Dad's heart condition worsened. Multiple hospital stays devoured the leftover house sale cash. He was gaunt, silver-haired, disheveled, hunched by the window staring at the noisy street. Mom grew frail, skin sallow, writing handwritten letters to my office daily. They piled up in my secretary's drawer. Son, I'm sorry. Please forgive us. But I never opened them, never replied. My heart ached thinking of them, the father who taught me to ride a bike, the mother who hugged me through tears. But betrayal's pain ran deeper. They destroyed themselves. Now they bore the consequences. I pictured Mom at the old kitchen table, pen trembling on paper, tears dripping, suspense mixed with pity. Did they truly regret? As for Jason, my brother, he vanished from Minneapolis like a ghost. After being fired, he cut contact, slipping away quietly. In the years that followed, rumors spread. Jason drifted through western states, bartender in California bars, janitor in Texas, scraping by in cheap motels. He carried crushing guilt, avoiding any reminder of the past. An old employee said, I saw Jason at a fast food joint. skinny, dark circles under his eyes, asked about you, then turned away. I imagined him jolting awake at night, the hissing oxygen valve, my face underwater, his confession in that secret meeting. I sabotaged the tank, he'd shouted in the hotel. Now he lived with that torment. No friends, no family. My heart still hurt for him. The brother who played with me under summer sun, shared dreams. But the betrayal was too deep, no return. I didn't hunt him down, just let time heal or not. Then one afternoon, after years of silence, Jason appeared at my office door. It was a late autumn day, pale golden sunlight filtering through the high-rise glass of Brooks Innovations. I was in a meeting discussing a new AI project when my secretary knocked. "Sir, someone named Jason Brooks wants to see you. He looks worn out." My heart pounded, suspense surging like the day I entered court. Jason, after all these years? I canceled the meeting, sat alone in the vast office, gazing at the bustling city. He stepped in, gaunt, hair unkempt, old jacket, eyes red. "Bro, Adrian," he whispered, voice trembling. We faced each other, air heavy. Jason dropped to his knees, tears streaming. I confess everything. The plot. I sabotaged the oxygen tank out of envy for the company. Mom and Dad knew, Sophia was in on it. I've lived in torment for years, wandering everywhere, no peaceful night. I just want to apologize, beg your forgiveness. I stood silent, staring at him, my brother, now a stranger. My heart twisted, memories flooding. Childhood soccer games, his grin when I taught him his first code. But then the sea, suffocation, betrayal overpowered. Suspense peaked. What now? Prosecute? Forgive? I took a deep breath, voice curt. "Little brother, I know it all. I heard everything in that Orlando meeting. But I don't want more investigation, don't want to push you, Mom, Dad, to the brink. Go. Live your life." Jason sobbed uncontrollably, shoulders shaking, tears splashing the floor. "Bro, why don't you hate me?" He choked. I turned away, watching sunset reflect in the glass, light fading like closing an old chapter. "Hate only hurts me more. Go, Jason." He stood, wiped his eyes, walked out without looking back. The door closed softly and he vanished again. I sat there for hours watching dusk fall, city lights flicker on. His belated confession changed nothing. The wounds remained, but it let me release completely. Family shattered, but I'd found peace. That night I dreamed of Windmere Island, Jacob smiling. "You did right." The next morning I resumed work, charity, my new life. Suspense for what lay ahead, but I knew I was free. However, that freedom was not the end. It was the beginning of deeper reflections on my life. After everything, from the fateful dive, the days adrift on a deserted island, the shocking courtroom return, to Jason's confession, I realized my experience was not just a personal story. It was a life lesson, a message I wanted to share with the world. I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, and from the ashes of betrayed trust, I drew harsh truths. Every night, sitting by my penthouse window, watching neon lights sparkle on the streets of Minneapolis, I asked myself, if I hadn't gone through that hell, who would I be? My heart still raced recalling it, but now that suspense carried strength, the strength to warn others. Let me share those lessons with you as I shared them with myself during lonely afternoons. The first lesson, and perhaps the most painful, is about trust. I once believed the closest people, family, spouse, siblings, were the strongest pillars. They know you best, love you most, and would never harm you. Oh, how wrong I was. The closest can sometimes be the most dangerous because they know your weaknesses, how to strike deepest without leaving a trace. Those nearest know too much, your habits, flaws, secrets, and can use them to stab you in the back. Suspense surges whenever I think of it. If I hadn't woken on Windmere Island, if Jacob hadn't saved me, my garage-built company would be theirs, and I'd be just a name on a tombstone. This lesson taught me trust must be built on actions, not blood. Never trust anyone absolutely, even family. They can be the most terrifying because their fatal blow is always unexpected and twice as painful. The second lesson is about greed. It demands a price, and that price is often steeper than you expect. Greed is a monster devouring from within, turning people into strangers to themselves. Look at my family. They had everything: generous allowances, a comfortable home, prestige from my success, but it wasn't enough. The Caribbean vacation, organized by my father to rekindle bonds, was a trap to seize Brooks Innovations. Jason wanted the CEO seat. Sophia wanted freedom and money for Marcus. My parents wanted the bulk for retirement. They plotted meticulously. Jason tampered with the oxygen tank during equipment checks. Sophia lured me into the risky dive. My parents whispered support. "We must agree on the split," they argued in that secret Orlando meeting I overheard. Greed blinded them, thinking my death would bring riches. But the cost? My parents now scrape by in a rundown apartment, enduring neighbors' gossip. The Brooks family, once rich from their son, now destitute from greed. Dad's heart disease worsened, endless hospital stays draining the remnants of the house sale. Mom frail, sallow, writing begging letters I never answer. Jason drifts, living like a ghost, tormented nearly to suicide. He confessed, "I do manual labor, but every night I dream of you suffocating underwater." I recall Windermere Island, when memories returned via radio news. Adrian Brooks declared dead. That moment I realized their greed not only nearly killed me, but destroyed them. Brooks Innovations, built from a garage with sleepless nights, relentless coding, mounting debt, is now an empire. But they wanted to steal it without sweat. Greed cost them everything. Shattered family, tarnished reputation, inner torment. Suspense at that price. If they'd stopped, if greed hadn't overwhelmed, we might still be family. But no. Greed always demands more, ultimately devouring its master. This harsh lesson: don't let greed rule. It demands irreplaceable losses: health, relationships, soul. From these lessons, I draw advice for myself and anyone reading this story. First, be vigilant, not paranoid about everyone, but alert to signs. On that vacation, I noticed the forced atmosphere. Jason's envious glances, Sophia's distance, my parents' calculating whispers. But I ignored it, thinking family wouldn't harm family. Mistake. Listen to your gut. If the oxygen tank hisses oddly, if words don't match actions, stop. Vigilance isn't living in fear, but protecting yourself. I advise, thoroughly check anything involving safety or assets. Don't sign blindly, as I did with the prenup, without forethought. With loved ones, build trust gradually through actions, not empty words. Suspense in giving this advice. Life is full of surprises, but vigilance spares you hell like mine. But also forgive when possible. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's releasing to move on. I didn't prosecute my family despite evidence, because hate prolongs pain. When Jason confessed, sobbing, "I've been tormented for years," I stayed silent, then said, "I don't want to drive you to ruin." Forgiveness freed me. No more nightmares, no more fearful suspense. But forgive at the right time, when they truly regret and you're ready. Don't rush. It must come from the heart, as I learned from Jacob. The sea forgives storms but keeps the scars. This advice balances vigilance for safety, forgiveness for peace. I apply it daily. In business, vigilant with partners but forgiving small errors. In charity, helping without expecting return, releasing old grudges. These lessons and advice now guide me. Brooks Innovations thrives, but I live simply. Morning runs, reading by the fireplace, occasional flights to Florida to visit Jacob's grave. He passed 2 years ago, but his words echo. I wrote a book about my story, sharing the message. From death's door, not to accuse, but to warn. Readers write, "Your story made me vigilant with family." My heart warms, suspense at the impact. The future? Perhaps I'll love again, truly without ties. But now I savor freedom, alone but not lonely. Life taught me. Trust is fragile, greed dangerous, but vigilance and forgiveness are keys to survival. If you're reading, remember, the closest can be terrifying. Greed demands a price, but you always have a choice. Release and be reborn.